right, what's up, everyone out there? This is Derek Hatch from All Things Narrative, and we are back for another session of the Empowered Entrepreneurial Education, aka E3, where we come together and we get to discuss all things business. So wherever you're at, whether you're joining us live or later on Facebook, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before I introduce everybody, I want to tell you about the topic that we're going to have here today. So when you start a business, there's lots of things that you need, right? You need to have a plan of what you're going to do, what your product or your service is going to be, and how you're going to get that in front of people, your marketing, your website, your social media. But there's one thing that it's really, really easy to overlook if you're in business, and that's bookkeeping. So today we're going to explore why we need a bookkeeper for our business. So what is bookkeeping? Why is it important? And why does every single business, including yours, need to stay on top of their books? And so joining us today, we've got this wonderful panel of people. We've got our fearless leader, John Acosta, joining us. And we've got Tori Eubanks here. And leading this discussion, I want to introduce to you someone who's very special, someone who is just a wealth of wisdom, and someone who personally has helped me with a lot of things with my business, just in being able to think through how to do this business well, and always there to answer questions about bookkeeping. And she's just an all-around amazing person. So I want you guys to give it up for Christine from Intention Enterprises.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with the crew today.
And so we might be having a little bit of a lag here with Christine, but basically what's going to happen is that Christine is going to facilitate a conversation about bookkeeping, and we'll all just kind of chime in however she wants us to. So Christine, you have the floor. What do we need to know about bookkeeping for our business?
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited about this content because, listen, I am all about making sure that how do you run an effective and an efficient business if you don't know what your numbers are. I think there is a lag with my video today, but we will get through this the best way we can. I'll ask the panel, how many of you are currently using a bookkeeper? Any?
That's why this conversation is going to come really handy for all of us.
Yep, it'll apply to us first.
Yes, absolutely.
It's one of those things that, it's one of those things as a small business that we think, I can absolutely do this. I can find the time to do this. And I really can't afford to pay anyone else. Owners, we try and how to do our own bookkeeping, right? We use a spreadsheet, or we have a box full of receipts somewhere. Pieces of paper that we try and pull together at the end of every year to get our taxes filed. But really, the long and short of it is that really the best way as a small business owner or as a business owner that we can spend our time? we're trying to grow our business. We're trying to find clientele. And then we're trying to work in the business. And really, for most of us, do we want to spend our time doing the bookkeeping? Probably not. And it gets left for the last thing on the list. So I have a few things that I always like to consider when I talk to my clients. Really, why do you need a bookkeeper? Why is having someone else, a third set of eyes, a second set of eyes, looking at your books? Why is that so important? And I like to say the first thing is that as a business owner, your time is so valuable. It's valuable, and it costs you something. It costs you money every time you move away from doing what it is you do best. So really, the first reason you want to consider a bookkeeper is because your time is valuable. One of the other reasons is that you have a better handle on your financial decisions. I mean, how many of you have wanted to, say, expand to a different program and you weren't sure and you really had to look at your numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you know what your numbers are, then you can decide whether you can grow or you need to shrink. And that comes with having a good understanding of what your financial position is, what your financial health is. Another reason to have a good professional bookkeeper is that, let's be for real, errors are so costly. If you put things in the wrong category, it can cost you hundreds and even thousands of dollars when you've allocated it the wrong way. And having a professional bookkeeper will definitely come alongside you and partner with you and help avoid some of those costly errors. And as we've just finished tax time, I mean, if for some of us, if that has not been the glaring reason of, oh my God, again this year, it took me weeks to pull my information together instead of hours. I mean, that should be one of the biggest reasons we all say, yep, I need a bookkeeper. I need someone to take this off of my plate. Let me ask you guys in the group, how was tax season?
It was a little hectic. I had to run through my invoices, figure out what I charged, what I didn't charge. I found out a bunch of things that never got paid to me, so it was fun.
I'm kind of the same way. Tax season sort of snuck up on us. You know when it comes every year in April, but it always seems like you put it off to the last minute. So you're rushing around trying to make sure you've got all of those receipts and saying you're going to do something different next year. So I'm so glad that you're helping us with this now so that we can start off fresh and not be so crazy this time next year.
And I think for me, it was a bit of a learning curve for sure. Especially in trying to figure out the things that you can write off on your taxes. And just little things that I wasn't thinking of throughout the year, like keeping track of your miles for everywhere that you're traveling, which I was like, I could figure that out. And I did figure it out, but I wish I would have been keeping track of that throughout the year rather than waiting until that last minute, right? So just definitely lots of things that I personally learned this tax season because I'm definitely more of a noob to the whole owning your business part of it. So yeah, it was definitely a lot to learn.
John mentioned something. He found in his tax work, or as he's pulling his paper together, that people owed him money.
Mm.
And that is that's a big problem. I had a client. He owns a boat company. We'll call it a boat company. The man sells yachts, right? And he calls me in and he says, "Oh, I think someone owes me a couple of months worth of payments, Christine. No big deal. Just take a look." I review close to a year worth of his just on one client, and this client owed him over $60,000. And he thought this man owed him $13,000. Yes.
It's a big difference.
So
Yeah.
it's those little things that you partner with your bookkeeper with, right? There's someone who is making sure that you have gotten paid for your invoicing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be important. It can be important. So I like to also, when I talk with my clients, and I partner with them, I remind them that I'm really there to be their day-to-day person. Unlike your CPA or your tax preparer, right? They see you once a year. They may not question where you've logged an expense. They may not ask you, "Oh, by the way, did you have mileage?" They may not ask you, I don't see that you recorded if you had a health insurance expense or you had a car repair expense. Your CPA is not looking for that, right? They're going to file taxes according to whatever information you give them. That's what they're going to do. Whereas your partner, your day-to-day bookkeeper, and not that we work every single day, but the person who is looking at your books on a regular basis, they're going to catch that. They're going to catch that, and ask you the question, was this a business expense or was this a personal expense? Or when you went out to lunch that day, because you told me you were going to meet a client, I didn't see that you logged that expense, and you didn't give it to me, and it didn't go through your bank account. Did you have lunch? Did you claim it as an expense? And they're really there to help you catch some of those things,
Quick
working
question,
with
Christine.
you on a regular basis. Yes.
Quick question. This may be the dumbest question ever, but it is one of the things that I've always had in mind. Like, a bookkeeper knows about the tax rules and everything or is just a CPA that worries about the tax rules? Because I know that, for example, for a meal, you have to be specifically talking about business or just mentioning in order to discount it as a meal for business.
It depends on the bookkeeper that you hire, right? There are some bookkeeping services that just do data entry. Whatever you give them, that's what they enter. If you tell them that this was a business expense, they may not question it. But in my case, in particular, I have 2 degrees in accounting, 1 in finance, and then 1 in business. And so when I do work with my clients, I specifically cater their books so that it's ready for tax time. So I'm looking to log those expenses in the most advantageous tax way, because I know the tax laws, or I have a good idea of the tax laws because I've worked with them before. So I look to make sure that they're getting the biggest advantage, whether is it a meal or is it a business promotion event, and there are 2 different tax laws for that.
Oh, okay.
A meal you get 50%, and a business promotion event you get 100% deduction.
Let's start promoting our businesses.
Where's the best way? Yeah. where's the biggest tax advantage that makes sense and that keeps you compliant? No gray areas here. Like, I don't do fuzzy math.
Christine, what would be the difference between the two types of meals that you were just talking about when you go out to lunch versus you're promoting your business? Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I want to make sure I'm taking advantage of the promotion. So how would I know the difference, or what makes it different?
I would categorize business promotion as you are giving a lunch and learn, for example.
Okay.
I would categorize that lunch as a business promotion lunch. Whereas a lunch with Johnny is it's just going to be lunch. Even though you've discussed business and it is a tax write-off, that would just be a lunch. So it's the fine nuance between what is allowable and what could be allowable.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Gotcha.
Thanks. That makes sense.
Okay.
So
And
Christine,
two, when you work with someone on a regular basis, you get to see their spending habits. You get to know which categories look a little light, and you probably could recategorize some of the things to be more to a tax advantage, but all keeping it above board and fully compliant.
Gotcha.
So Christine, I really like the way that you frame what you do specifically with Intention Enterprises more as a partnership with a business, right? You're coming alongside them. You're not just putting in data and you're just saying, all right, here you go, cut me a check and I'm done. You actually want to go deep with the person into their business, right? And I can see that, especially if you're a small business and we're in this time in the business where we're a solo act, right? And we're just trying to figure out how to make it all work, how valuable it would be to have somebody else there that can really work alongside you, work with you, and help you not just with your numbers, but to actually understand what's going on behind the numbers. I mean, would that be fair to say about what you do and what sets you apart?
Yes, that is definitely what I think. One of the things that sets me apart is that, too, when I look at your expenses, I can make an analysis and say, oh, compared to industry standard, this cell phone bill looks like it might be high. Maybe you should call your carrier and ask them about that. Or your car insurance, or that looks a little high compared to what I see normally. Maybe we should call and find out you're not getting a deduction that you should be getting from one of those carriers. So knowing what expenses should look like in an industry gives, you're able to offer some sort of analysis of their spending as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I just want to say, so when do you think is a good time to get a bookkeeper? So a lot of people are probably asking, when do I know? When is it actually the right time for me? And one of the biggest things to remember is that when it is taking so much of your time that you are no longer operating in your zone of genius, then it's time. It's time. When it's costing you time in order to complete this task, it is time to outsource. And Tori can speak to the need to outsource, right? How important it is to know when it's time.
Yeah, exactly. When it starts when you start spending more time doing the bookkeeping than what it was that you went into business for, when it starts to frustrate you, when you find that you just really don't like doing something, that's the time to start trying to outsource it and get that off of your plate. Because if it's not your area of expertise, it's just not going to work. You're going to need to get that help. And like you said, Christine, especially dealing with your finances, you make a mistake, it's going to be costly. So you want to make sure you're partnering with someone who can help you from making those types of mistakes.
Yes, and that's the one thing that I like about what Christine has created, because she's not only an accountant or somebody who does the bookkeeping, but it's somebody who knows the tax laws and is familiar with what can be done in order to benefit your business. That I think is the biggest advantage of Intention Enterprises and what Christine is bringing to the table for every business.
And also, when you start to fall behind and you cannot get an accurate financial picture of where your business is, not just what I think I made last month or what I think I made last week, or I think someone owes me money, but I'm not sure. When you no longer have that accurate financial picture, you need to outsource it to someone who can help give you that picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have 5 top questions you should ask when you are looking for a bookkeeper. If it's not Intention Enterprises, it's someone else. 5 basic things that you should ask, right? You want to ask for their credentials. What's their expertise? Did they go to school, or did they learn QuickBooks, or what is their expertise? What are their credentials? What scope of service are they going to offer you? So know what it is they can offer you. Know who will own your data. Will you keep possession of your data? Or does that bookkeeper or accounting firm now own your data because you're using their software, not your own? Who will be doing the work? Will the person that you meet, the face of the company, be doing the work, or are they outsourcing it to someone else? There should be transparency there. And lastly, do they know your industry?
Ooh, that's a big one.
If you are in restaurants or you do e-commerce, like they should have a frame of reference of working in your industry.
That's good.
I'm jotting down all of these notes, Christine. Such good stuff.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have thought about it, and because in the marketing industry, we are very used to asking who's owning the data. But in this situation, I would have never even thought about that.
Yes, there are some companies, when you use their software, if you've decided that you're going to use their QuickBooks software instead of purchasing your own and having them log into it, it's a fine line. They may say that they own your data, and that's just a question to ask. Who owns the data? Because you want to make sure you own your data, always.
Quick question also, when you're just getting started with your business, because I think Derek and I on the financial side, we're just getting to know how is the maneuver. Are there bookkeepers that work for a certain amount of hours for the week, or just for the project for the week, or how does that look like? Because when you're just starting, you cannot hire somebody full-time, staff on right away. How do we work when we're just getting started on that phase?
Well, you may not need someone on a monthly basis. You may want someone on a quarterly basis to review your books, depending on how much activity you have going on. There are some services that will work on an hourly basis. They'll pop into your system maybe once a week, if that's what you agree to, for a nominal fee. But I will tell you most of those companies are data entry. They're going to come in and do your data entry for you, and then they're going to step back out because that's what you're paying for at a lower rate. Because I see people advertise, oh, we do your bookkeeping for $100 a month. They're doing data entry for $100 a month. They're giving you zero, there will be no feedback attached to that. Whatever you give them is what they're going to put in.
They're not even going to question it or anything.
No. And the one thing you have to know about accounting software, if you put garbage in, you will get garbage out. But there are companies that will do it. Absolutely. I am not one of those companies, though.
Yes.
But I do work with small businesses to make it what I think is affordable for the service and the value that I offer. I always tell people you cannot afford not to have a bookkeeper if you really want to know your numbers.
Okay. In the bookkeeping world now, you mentioned QuickBooks, and also Derek was mentioning the mileage. There's a lot of apps now that measure the mileage. Same thing, is that also considered something that you have to separate personal and business? And how do you measure that? Because sometimes you may be jumping from one personal event to another business event. Do you measure from your house, from where?
So I use an app. They have lots of apps that measure mileage. And the thing about measuring your mileage, it doesn't necessarily start from your house to the next event. So if you're leaving your home and going to a client, you need to have a stopping point in between. And it gets a little complicated in that, for example, I leave my house, I stop at the Dunkin' Donuts. I don't necessarily have to buy anything from the Dunkin' Donuts, but I start tracking my miles from the closest thing to my house, because you technically cannot track the mileage from your house to your first destination.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And they don't really tell you that, and most of us will track the mileage from the time we leave the house to our first client.
That's
true.
I would have done that.
That is what we do. But we shouldn't. We do, and it's fine, but we shouldn't. You should pick the closest thing to your house and start tracking mileage from there. And I use an app. I no longer use pen and paper like I used to and write down my starting mileage and my ending mileage. I click on my app and it tracks it and spits out a number for me at the end of the year that I can then put on my tax return.
So, Christine, speaking of apps, we have a question here in the comments from Ralph at LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening in and for asking the question, Ralph. So he wrote a comment first saying that I appreciate that list of 5 questions, Christine. That is empowering. And then he asked, what is a good receipt tracking app? I downloaded Foreseat, but haven't used it yet. So, Christine, we'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yep.
I will cop to the fact that I do not use an app to track receipts. I use a credit card. I have a business card that is attached to my bank account. That is how I track my business expenses. Everything that goes on this debit card or credit card, that's how I track my expenses. So do you need the receipt? Yes, you should keep the receipt for tax purposes. But if it's on the card, that is usually receipt enough.
Okay.
Good to
You're
know.
using one source of payment to track your ins and outs of your businesses. It gets funny when people want to use cash. Like, I was a big cash person, but you should only be using the money from your business bank account for business expenses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
And
was a
bookkeepers
lesson
love it. Yes.
That was a lesson I had to learn the hard way in tax season, because I had all these things I was using personal debit and credit cards for, because it's like, oh, I need to buy ink for my printer. Okay, but you print stuff for your business all the time, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, why don't you use your business card for that? Like, oh, I'm right. I'm just so in the habit of using like a personal card for things. It's like you got to just get in that habit of thinking about the business. So, yeah. So no, this is good stuff, Christine.
I always tell my clients to front fund their business account. If you know you spend $200 or $300 on business expenses every month, make a contribution to your business bank account and spend it from there.
Okay.
That's good.
It will make things a heck of a lot easier come tax time too.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had more information about receipt tracking. I know QuickBooks helps you track receipts as well, but I personally don't use a receipt app per se. But I hear they're wonderful.
What is the app you use for mileage, Christine?
It is called, hold on. It's called STRIDE.
Stride. Okay.
Stride.
That is not a paid promotional, by the way, folks. That's just the app I use.
This message was not brought to you by.
It's not a paid promotion.
Exactly. And neither does QuickBooks. QuickBooks doesn't pay me for promotion as well. So let's talk about accounting software, right? Because the industry standard is QuickBooks. It is the go-to. It allows you to grow from a small company to very large enterprise level type of organizations. And I think the fee is nominal for QuickBooks. I love QuickBooks personally, but there are free softwares out there that work just as well. And one of my go-to softwares is a software called Wave.
Wave, okay.
It's free. It's user-friendly. So for those people who don't want to pay the $20 every month for QuickBooks, Wave is a good second choice. And it does everything. Invoicing, you can run credit cards through it. It offers the full gamut.
Nice, good to know. And you can get paid, as far as I can see, with rates a little bit better than PayPal.
Okay, there you go. They offer you a little of everything.
I like this one.
And they have a phone on your app for that. So you can send clients invoicing on the go.
So that comes in really handy. So that's great. I didn't realize that you could do that.
Yes. And I believe that app allows you to upload receipts into specific transactions as well. And QuickBooks allows that as well too. Right from your mobile phone.
That's great. I always get worried when it comes time to doing taxes and you look back at those receipts from January the year before and they're so faded you can barely see what it is, and you're like, oh, how will that stand up if you're ever audited?
Yes.
great to be able to scan those in.
7 years. 7 years? Yeah, I think
Yes.
it's 7 years. That's a lot.
Mhm.
7 to 10 years, they advise you to keep your taxes and your receipts. The IRS is notorious for digging in the past.
Yep.
Any other questions? I think it's just important for us to listen. Bookkeeping is not a sexy subject. We're talking about our finances. Like, we don't like to talk about these things. We just like to inherently know that everything is fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're really not being diligent, you're not being intentional about how you're tracking your finances, it can make a difference between, needing to being ready to expand your business because you have all your information in order, and being ready to do that, and then having to get ready to do that and lose an opportunity.
Yes, and nowadays there's so many apps, so many things, but just like because we're not in that industry, we don't know about them. Like today, this wave, I'm gonna definitely jump and try it. But that you left that seed in me that it does make sense to have a bookkeeper as soon as it becomes too much work.
Yes.
Well, Christine, is there anything else that you wanted to add or ask us about, or any final comments as we begin to wrap this live stream up?
I just want everyone to know that your bookkeeper should be an added value. They should be saving you time, they should be saving you money, and they should be able to help you grow. If they're not doing those things, that's not the right person for you to be working with. Look for someone who will add value to your business. And a good professional bookkeeper will help you do that.
Mhm.
And Christine, if people did want a professional bookkeeper and they listened to this conversation and went, wow, that Christine, she really knows what she's talking about, she might be the one, how can they get connected with you?
They can call me. My cell phone number is 954-415-9540. Or you can get on my website at www.intentionenterprises.com and book a free discovery call with me, and we can talk about any of your concerns.
Awesome. Well, I certainly hope that this has been helpful to anyone out there, whether you're tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, now, later. Just thank you for your time, Christine, and thank you for just the wisdom that you've given us. And definitely connect with Christine, even just get on a discovery call, learn more about what she does and how she's set apart as a bookkeeper, how she's different, and how she can add value to your business. So John, Tori, thank you guys so much as well for being a part of this. And any final thoughts before we close out?
Just to thank Christine for bringing this topic, because finance is one of the things that we all avoid talking in our personal or our business. So thank you very much for everything you brought for us today.
No, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, so everyone, till next time, thank you. Bye.